Pelvic floor exercises. In this video, I'm going to share with you how to reconnect with your pelvic floor. And I want you to start by sitting, and I do recommend either sitting on a mat or a pillow. You can do this seated on a chair with a pillow underneath you, but you want to make sure that you can feel something underneath your pelvic floor when we first begin practicing this so that you can start to get that tactile feedback against your pelvic floor. So to begin with, when we're really working to connect with our pelvic floor, it's really important that a lot of it is actually done with breath work, and we want to make sure that we're not squeezing our glutes or really forcefully trying to activate the pelvic floor. Because the more we try to force the activation of the pelvic floor, the less it wants to respond as adequately as we would like it to. So I want you sitting up nice and tall, and I want you to just start to breathe nicely through your nose and visualize your breath going all the way out to the sides of your rib cage, down into your low back, and all the way down into your pelvis and even into your pelvic floor. And you can start to visualize, trying to relax into your hips. And if you're tight sitting down like on a mat like I am, I would recommend doing this on a chair. You can also practice this standing. And what I'm going to teach you today is something that you can practice throughout your day, whether you're driving in your car, running errands, or standing at your desk or sitting at your desk. Whatever you're doing, you can always practice pelvic floor activation really anywhere throughout your day. Okay, so I want you in a position that you feel like you're relaxed through your hips, and as you exhale, I want you to start to visualize your pelvic floor as a diamond, okay? So many women think their pelvic floor is like really small, like the size of a quarter, and it's not. And when we work to activate our pelvic floor, we make sure you are not practicing this when you are going to the bathroom, stopping the flow of urine, because that actually could lead to UTIs. So we do not want that happening. So instead, I want you to think of your pelvic floor as a diamond, because it is at the base of your pelvis. It's quite big surface area wise, okay? So we want to think from the front of our pelvis, our pubic bone, all the way back to underneath our butt cheeks, but it's not our glutes, so we don't want to be clenching our glutes, and then it's sits bones to sits bones. So that's why I like having you initially practice this seated, so you can feel that you're sitting up nice and tall. Watch you're not pulling into your back, okay? So we want to just sitting up nice and tall, and as you exhale, you're going to visualize those 4 points lightly coming together, and then you're going to pull up tall through your body, trying to avoid sucking your belly to your spine. Again, that's a forceful movement, and when we actively just draw that belly to our spine because we think we're activating our pelvic floor, it's actually doing the opposite. It's putting pressure down on your pelvic floor, which we want to avoid. Okay, so as you inhale, just think about releasing through your hips, through your pelvis, and exhale, you're gonna draw those 4 points together very lightly and start to lift up tall all the way through the top of your head. And then inhale and let everything go. Okay, and another side note to be aware of is if you don't feel anything in your pelvic floor when you do this in the beginning, that is perfectly okay and completely normal. Very, very normal for most women when we're really learning to connect with the pelvic floor, because so many of us have to create a new habit. We've been taught incorrectly in the past. So that's okay, but where you are today is exactly where you're supposed to be, and you're here listening to this, so that's amazing. So I want you to just keep practicing this and visualize what you want to happen. So even if, again, today you're like, I have no idea what's happening with my pelvic floor, I feel nothing, or you do notice that you're gripping in those glutes to try to activate your pelvic floor, that's awesome, because you're becoming more aware of what's going on with your body. Okay, so we can start to think about relaxing our glutes and visualizing those 4 points lightly zipping up and growing tall. And so this is something you can practice when you're standing. I want you to try it standing as well. You can try it before you do any sort of workouts or exercise. It's really important that we learn to connect with our pelvic floor. And we want to avoid any exercises that cause incontinence, where you pee your pants a little bit, or if you're going running and you notice that you leak a little bit, that's a sign that your pelvic floor needs to be addressed a little bit more. The more we kind of fight against what's going on with our pelvic floor, the symptoms are only going to get worse. So it's really, really important that we focus on where we are today, even if that means we have to pull back on our exercise for just a little bit. It's temporary. Really learn how to reconnect with our pelvic floor, which is the base of our deep core. We can't correctly work our abdominal muscles and our deep core without addressing our pelvic floor. It is the foundation. It is the base, and yes, it works a little bit independently, but more importantly, it works together with our entire body. So even if you're dealing with low back pain, diastasis recti, tightness or pain in the hips or pain in your neck, all of that could come back to what's going on with your pelvic floor. You might be too restricted in your pelvic floor, so it's really important for you to learn to release and relax and then connect through your pelvic floor. You also might be too weak in your pelvic floor, and then in that case, it's important to learn how to connect. As you practice this more, you will get better at connecting through your pelvic floor. And I cannot stress enough that visualization. So I want you to visualize what you want to be feeling, what you want to be happening through your pelvic floor and deep core. And one last note I want to leave you with is that it's a very light connection. So for all these years, you've been doing abdominal exercises and maybe thinking you're working your pelvic floor, doing your Kegels, right? And it feels kind of intense. Like we want to feel that burn, right? Feel those abdominals working. This is the opposite of that. When you start to properly activate your pelvic floor and your deep core through doing this just simple pelvic floor exercise, breath work and visualization, it's going to be so light, but you're going to start to wake up this amazing connection with your body. For more, check out my website at ericazeal.com.